Welcome to part 9 of the 755 Followed Me Home project. It's spring and time to clean up the shop by rounding up parts and putting the blind date engine back together. If you missed what brought us to this point, here's a list that outlines the themes of previous episodes. Enjoy, and thanks for subscribing. Episode 8, Part 3 ended with a partial and temporary assembly of the main engine components so the piston to head clearance could be measured. With the test complete, it's time to remove the camshaft, idler gear, and front gear case so reassembly can occur. First thing to do is remove the lifters, making sure to set them aside in order. To remove the camshaft, we'll remove the 10mm bolt that's holding the cam thrust plate. And then, carefully, remove the camshaft. And then, with any luck, we'll remove the snap ring that holds the idler. And be careful not to send it across the room. Then take this washer off and rotate and pull the idler. Off we come. For episode 8, part 3, I didn't include showing initial cleaning of the gear case before temporary installation. Here's how I did it. You can take a bearing insert to clear this gasket material off of your surfaces. No reason to use a pocket knife. You're going to throw these away anyway. Want to be careful you don't dig into the aluminum. But you see it, just a little bit of work. There's a little catch right there. We'll come back with a pocket knife and check it. Before applying gasket maker, identify and clean the mating areas on the gear case. Now the first thing we want to do is to identify where the gasket maker will go. Now we'll clean the area with a little bit of good old John Deere paint thinner. Also want to make sure we clean the block surface. Before putting the gasket maker on the gear case, I want to put a little bit on these O-rings, just a touch, to keep them located in these passages. Well, I've prepared the caulking gun. Make sure that the handle will go all the way. And this way, with a larger tube, it's not that much more expensive, and we can just keep the material flowing. So here we go. I'm going to put about 1/8 of an inch out of a 45-degree cut. This allows you just to keep going, applying the bead evenly without any stopping. This is a little difficult around the corner. You want to go around all the bolt holes. Alright, we've got 2 locator pins. And I'm going to use one of the longer case bolts, because it's not going to fit there, to just give us a locator. Making sure those O-rings are in place. So we should be located pretty good now. We'll get our 2-pound hammer. And what we want to do is just touch the gaskets, not to force them together. And now we're going to leave that for about an hour before tightening the bolts. Well, it's been an hour and my torque wrench will only go down to 10 pounds. This is supposed to be 78 inch-pounds or just 6 pound-feet. So we're going to do a general, everybody gets a snug. As luck would have it, the memory card stopped recording and provided an opportunity to obtain a proper torque wrench. A quick call to AutoZone found they had a new loaner kit on hand, and after some comparative tests with the larger Snap-on, I was confident the AutoZone unit was good to go on torquing the 6mm bolts. With this one last time around to confirm all internal bolts were tight, it was time to continue with the camshaft, idler, and gear timing. Well, ready to insert the cam. What I'm going to do is dab a little oil on all these bearings. Make sure that thrust plate is going in correctly, correct alignment. There we go. And the cam thrust plate is held in with 2 M6 by 16 cap screws. And torqued to 78 inch-pounds. The first thing we'll do to time these gear sets is we'll rotate the crankshaft until it's marked the letter A is pointing to the axis, or the axle point of the idler gear. Also then the cam gear B and the injection pump C. Now the idler has B, a C, and an A. I want to put a little bit of oil on that shaft before we put it in. Okay, here's where some of the fumbling can start. What we want to do is put this tooth in that valley. I got it the first chance. Okay, that's step 1. We can slide the gear back a little further. Until it's up against the upper 2 gears. Now the camshaft without the cam followers or the tappets in it
can be aligned with the tooth now on the angle B and B. To align the injection pump, a plunger spring is holding back, so we have to rotate and hold while sliding the. Remember about fumbling. Here we go. There it went. So at this point, camshaft, an injection pump, and idler gear are in time. As you can see with the tooth A in the valley with the crankshaft gear. And now for the fun of it, we'll put the washer on the idler and then see if we can get the snap ring on without losing it in the shop. Very good. Before applying the gasket maker, I want to rehearse how this is going to work. So what I plan on doing was apply the gasket maker, then using some of the longer bolts, use them as a guide, and then slide the cover to where the mounting dowels line up, and then push the cover. Now I want to make sure that the tachometer drive, if you don't take it off, is lined up so it can slide on. So it looks like it's going to work. Now we'll apply the gasket maker and glue it together. I'll take one of the locator bolts, put it in place, keeping the gear case cover away from the block. Those two will work. Now carefully slide it up a bit until those locator pins engage. And just loosely press the cover together. Now what we can do is take the appropriate screws, put them in, and get them just snug. Then we'll let the gasket maker cure for about an hour. And then we'll get the rest of the bolts in and tighten her down. Well, it's been over an hour. So we'll tighten everything up. And don't want to forget this little guy under here. This is the rear seal holder, and in looking at what the guys that have been here before have done, well, first of all, they've used the orange silicone, but the seal has been leaking, but also the seal was not installed square. If you notice, it's set deeper here than it is on the other side, so it hasn't been running square or true over the crankshaft. And there's a pretty broad seal groove right there on the end of the crank. Okay, we're at a point where we need to set the rear main seal in the seal holder. Next thing I want to do is take a little bit of oil
put it around the crank surface, the sealing surface. Then I want to place the seal over the crank and put it into that groove. What I'm wanting to know is how far the back of the seal is from the flush mount of the seal case. Near as I can tell, we're at about 135 to 140. So the idea then is that if the seal is flush with the back of the seal holder, then we'll be back onto clean crank surface behind that groove. So I think that's what we'll do.
So I installed the seal so that it's flush with the rear of the seal plate. Again, I'm applying an 1/8 inch bead of gasket maker on both sides of the bolt holes. Before installing the seal, I'm putting fresh oil on the crank seal surface. And then we'll install the seal case. Locate the pins, and then M6 by 22 cap screws, and we'll just tighten them enough to bring the gasket maker in contact with the block. And we'll install the rest of the screws. We have to put the seal case on prior to the pan. Otherwise we'd have to slide it, apply the gasket material along here and then slide it in on top of the pan. And now after an hour it's time to torque down the seal case bolts to 96 inch-pounds. One more time around just to check. O-rings are cheap, so we put a new one on the pickup tube. The oil tube will go in here with a 6 by 10 millimeter screw there and one here. And then we torque them down to 96 inch-pounds. Before putting the pan on, I want to double check the torque on the rod cap bolts. The rod caps are torqued to 203 inch-pounds. On the rod cap screws, and the main bearing caps at 58 foot-pounds. Start in the center and work out. Well, with the surfaces cleaned with paint thinner and a coating of gasket maker, ready to set the pan. And we'll set it into place with a series of these M6 by 8 cap screws. The M6 by 8s go along the sides. M6 by 12s go into the aluminum covers. The torque specs for these going into the cast iron are 96 pound-inches, and the ones into aluminum go in at 78 inch-pounds. Well, it's been about an hour, so we'll start cranking down the cap screws. So we'll make it around one time, just get them snug, sort of uniform, and then we'll go ahead and torque it down. Alright, now we're ready to torque. The ones that go into aluminum case, we're going to torque them to 78 inch-pounds. Then in the rear seal case, now the remainder is going to be at 96 inch-pounds.